Hey everyone, this is Joe Zija, and you're listening to the Kasanova Podcast.
Aloha and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova, and we have a special guest that is returning to the show, the one, the only Tomm Hulett. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Hey, everybody.
Awesome. It's great to have you back on the show, and today we're going to be talking about Contra Operation Galuga. And last time we had you on the show, we were talking about Spidersaurs, which was absolutely phenomenal. And I was like, when I was playing that game and doing my review, I was like, is this a sign of things to come? And
Yeah, you were talking about how all your fond memories of Contra, I believe, and I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew a little more than you did at that point, so it was fun for me.
So I mean, and this is not your first time working on the Contra series, like Contra 4, absolutely phenomenal game, and I'm seeing a lot of aspects of Contra 4 in this one. I just want to say, like, the floor is yours. You can go ahead and talk about anything you want to with it.
Well, yeah, like you said, I worked on Contra 4, 16 or 17 years ago now, and it was obviously a big deal. I was a producer at Konami at the time, and we worked with Wayforward, and it was just great. And so now that I'm a director at Wayforward, having Konami come to us and be like, "Hey, we want to do, kind of an old school Contra game. We know you guys can know what that means, so let's like figure it out and do something cool." And it was really validating, but it's also a little scary because now it's kind of like my final exam at Wayforward. It's like, well, you did this as a producer, and we had a bunch of really great people on it, and now you're guiding the team. So, like, can you do a good Contra too? So, yeah, I'm really proud of how it came out. The team knocked it out of the park, and I'm really excited for everybody to get their hands on it.
Awesome. And like from everything that I've seen with it, so this is a reimagining of the first Contra, the NES and the arcade original. So, how much new and how much are we doing like fully reimagined in a sense?
Yeah,
like,
this is always a complicated question for we have so many remakes and reimaginings and redos and whatever nowadays.
yeah.
So story-wise, this is back to the beginning. It's a reboot. It's the first story of Contra, but that game, the original game on arcade and then Famicom, had kind of a limited story, and then it came west, and like they gave it their own story, and then as the series went on, both territories in Europe tried to sort of make it unique to them, but also merge it together so it made sense, and it wasn't this huge task every single new game to like come up with a new story. And on Contra 4, we tried to kind of combine everything and make it make sense. But yeah, Konami was like, no. So we're starting over, but like now we have sort of this idea of what the series is because we played all the games, and so here's our Bible about here's what we want to do with it. So it's kind of like an MCU situation of like, there's all this existing lore, and definitely some of that's coming over, but we kind of want to surprise people, and we want to like make the best story moving forward of maybe certain stuff didn't work, so we don't want to do it, or maybe we want to combine things or separate concepts. So story-wise, that's all a bunch of new stuff, but it is the first game, so they're going to be on Galuga Island. It's going to start in the jungle. Bill and Lance are there, etc. Gameplay-wise, contrary to something like Wayforward's done a couple remakes and things in the past where we try to lovingly recreate every element of it and then build on top of that. That's not what we did here for gameplay. For gameplay, it was like, what's the best Contra concept we can do? What should we do new? What should we keep? Let's just build a new game. So like some of the level settings, like the jungle, that's already decided. But we didn't lay out, here's the NES jungle, and let's make sure we have this jump, and let's make sure this guy jumps over here, and we didn't do that at all. We were like,
Okay.
it's a jungle and it's Contra, and now make a new game. So gameplay
Okay.
wise, it's brand new.
Okay. I'm excited for that because, like, all the characters I'm seeing, plus, touching on like what Europe was doing initially with Contra. For those of you who don't know, Contra was known as Probotector in Europe, and there's one of the characters from that is in this one. I saw that, and I was like, I wonder how many of the new school gamers are going to catch that. I'm like, as someone who's been with Contra since the beginning, it's like, yeah, I got that reference. That was pretty cool.
We've gotten such a strong response from Probotector, and I did that on purpose. I was the one that kind of pushed for having him involved, and definitely wanted him in all the trailers. And sorry, my computer's being weird. Okay, definitely wanted him in all the trailers. Um, and I knew for Europeans and hardcore gamers, it would be like a big deal. Like they'd be like, "Oh, I know what that is, and it's really cool that he's here, and he's not just a secret unlockable guy like in Contra 4. Like they're showing us Probotector." But I didn't quite expect the level of feedback. Like it's every trailer we get a bunch of people like, "Oh my gosh, thank goodness, back Probotector." And I sat back and thought about it, and like the last time Probotector was in the games was on the Genesis/Mega Drive.
Mhm.
So it's been like 30 years since anyone got to play in a new game as Probotector other than Contra Force. So yeah, that's a big deal. I'm glad we did it.
And some of the new characters you got, Ariana and some of the others. Like, what was the inspiration for bringing in some of the newer characters?
Yeah, so kind of to highlight that it's a new game or a new take on the classic storyline. Konami really wanted to have some new characters as well. They didn't just want to have
Mhm.
let's hit all the Contra guys. It was like, well, we need some new characters, and we'll fit them into the story. So Ariana, for example, she's part of the tribe that was native to the Galuga Islands,
Mhm.
and the meteor event that kind of kicks off the Contra storyline decimated her village. So she's been there while the Red Falcon organization has been building up their troops. She's been there on her own, like fighting them off or doing little raids to like survive.
Mhm.
And so Bill and Lance encounter her, and they're like, "Oh, who's this? Who's this girl?" But like, she's freaking tough, man. She's survived.
Mhm.
And so she joins up and becomes a playable character. But that adds a new dimension of the story. It's not just these two guys who come into the island. Now we get sort of a perspective on the people from the island. And then Stanley Ironside, who's another new character, he fights in a power suit, like a big armored
Mhm.
power suit. He's got a giant railgun thing. Um, so the Contra unit is part of the Earth Marine Corps, and then
Mhm.
Stanley is the head, sort of the lead commander of the GX Army Special Forces. So they have like a Army Marines rivalry going on there. So he's more of he knows Bill and Lance. Uh, they're not each other's favorite people, but they're all on the island, and so they have to figure out. We're here. We're kind of doing the same purpose. We're fighting on the same team. So like let's combine forces. So that's another fun element and another new character to use. So lots of choices.
Okay. Should fans expect to see classic characters from like Contra Hardcore, such as like Ray or Brownie or anything like that? Possibly.
We haven't
If you
revealed
can
all
say.
we haven't revealed all the characters yet. I can say that. So there's
Okay.
still more to come.
Okay. And as far as like the campaign, how long and in depth would you say like the story is?
It's 8 stages, and there's two primary modes: story and arcade. So story mode, you're going to get um, a nice intro scene to set things up. You're going to get various plot elements throughout the whole game, and then an ending. And then in arcade mode, that's just so I know the story. I just want to play the game. Um, so we remove all the story from arcade mode, and then you can play it start to finish. And bosses will get additional patterns as well. So if everyone should definitely start on story mode, get all the new story, learn, meet the new characters, and do that stuff. But I think arcade is where you're going to get your grinding in when you're mastering the game, bragging online, whatever. You're going to be grinding it through on arcade mode.
Okay. All right. And I noticed like with story mode is 2-player and then arcade mode is 4-player. So let's talk about that. How is it the decision to make this have 4-player capability? Like, was that hard to like design the game around or not really?
It was a lot of fun. So people who old people who were around when Contra 4 was being promoted might remember our initial screenshots had 4 players.
Mm-hmm.
And just based on the specs of the DS, it just wasn't. We could provide a better game in 2 players than trying to fit 4 players in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then with Operation Galuga, we knew we wanted to level it up. We definitely were thinking about 4 players. Konami was like, "Hey, could you do 4 players?" And we were like, "Yeah, let's do it." So the benefit here is we've got widescreen now. So
Yeah.
compared to the DS, which is this way and a little thin, we've got a nice long display. So there's plenty of room for 4 characters. The trick is making sure when you're playing 4 players, there's enough enemies to shoot. So we ramp up the enemy spawners. We have some additional weapon drops, so no one gets left out.
Mm-hmm.
And then bosses get an HP boost too, so they don't just die if everyone's got a good weapon. But yeah, otherwise it's really trying to provide that classic. You remember it growing up, like you get your buddy, you play Contra, he scrolls you off the screen, you punch him in the arm, like just bringing that back, but like with 2 more buddies and making it like just as cool, just as fun. You'll be laughing just as hard. So that's kind of what we tried to accomplish.
Okay. All right. And then there's also like the new overload system. Can you dive a little bit into that?
Yeah. So, Konami, when they came to us, they kind of wanted our take on like what would you do to expand the gameplay, and overloads were really my pitch. And it's something I've been kind of thinking about. If I ever did Contra again, this would be kind of what I did. So we dove in and explored that. So what it is, older games, especially the 16-bit, you get like your smart bomb drops and your barrier, so you get invincible for a period of time, or you'd get a smart bomb which would destroy everything on screen. And I thought those are great, but they both actually kind of filter down to only 1 or 2 use cases. So if you pick up the barrier, you're invincible, but that's always the area of the stage you are invincible for.
Mm-hmm.
So that the strategy just becomes, did I grab the barrier or not? And that's not super exciting. And then if you watch, you can use the smart bombs whenever you want, but if you watch people online, they just stockpile them for the boss, and then you get to the boss and they're like, smart bomb. And then the boss either dies or doesn't. But again, it's not the most strategic thing. And what I like about Contra with the weapons and the pickups is you're able to improvise. So you obviously have your run through the stage that you want to do, your optimal run. But if you get hit, you lose that power up. You have to adjust. Now now you have a different weapon. So do you use that? Do you make do? Do you know all the weapons enough that you can use them all situations? So long story short, that all translates into the overloads in that now any weapon in the game, you can sacrifice it and it'll give you a large effect. Sometimes it's strategic, like the barrier, which our machine gun is the barrier. So now you can use it whenever you want. It's not just timed to where you get it. You can hold on to the machine gun. Maybe you'd want to use the machine gun, but this boss is too hard, and you're like, I'm going to do it. Now I'm invincible. And then other things are damaging, like a smart bomb. So you can't hold it to the boss, because if you detonate everything you've got, now you have the pea shooter on the boss. But there might be a situation you do want to use it, or you might carry a weapon to the boss, use that as your smart bomb, and now depend on your secondary weapon. So I loved the strategic options that gave you. It felt way more in line with what I liked about Contra and improvising than just a smart bomb and a barrier. So that's it. So when you play the game and you get your weapon and you see, what does spread shot do? What does it do when I level it up? Now you got to learn what it does when I overload it. And now you have all those options when you have a spread shot. And then I will say, if people have watched the latest trailer with the new characters in it, some of them have alternate weapons.
Mm-hmm.
The alternate weapons have their own unique overloads. So there's a lot of different options based on your character, based on your weapon, based on the situation.
So with each of the characters having their own unique specialty weapon, so we're gonna expect each character to have like playstyle differences, or is it gonna feel like, I guess more like the original, where it's just like what palette do you want?
It's definitely gonna have their own unique play style, but hopefully not in a way that like if you got stuck with a character, you'd be like, ugh, I hate this guy. He can't do the thing I like. So like everyone has the same jump height. No one's got like a short jump that's useless, right? Some people have a double jump. Some people have a dash. So basically, the character breakdown is you've got your character. They've got whatever their weapon situation is, and then they've each got 2 abilities of a set of several. So, like I said, dash and double jump might be a combo, but someone else might have a dash but a grapple, or someone else might have a slide and a hover. So,
Okay.
those are like secondary abilities. You don't need any of them to get through the stage, but they are going to affect how you get through the stage, right? So, you'll have your favorite character, but again, if you get stuck with somebody, it should be fun and like, oh, I'm going to learn a new thing, not like, ugh, I hate this situation. I'm bummed out.
Okay. So I'm definitely thinking speedrunners are gonna have a field day with this game.
Yep, that's the hope. That's always the hope. Is we're not going to make something just for speedrunners, but when we put in a new mechanic, we definitely think about like, how's this going to get you? Is this useful? Is this useful for the run? So I'm excited. I'm excited to watch those YouTubes.
Okay. So how much would you say from what you were working on with Spidersaurs has carried over to this title?
I don't know that anything's directly carried over. There's definitely some like lessons we learned, just about what type of mechanics feel good, or like if this hits an enemy and it reacts this way, is that cool? Boss designs, just kind of exploring what kind of like if there was a thing in Spidersaurs we found like, oh, that's kind of unfair. Like in the final game, people are getting stuck on this guy, and we didn't realize it would happen. Stuff like that, where we could feed it into Contra and be like, okay, well, that this combination of things was a problem. So like, how did we solve it? Okay, so now we might have a boss with some new element that you'll get the experience we wanted, but without the frustration some people had. Otherwise, I guess a funny aspect of it is when I was working on Contra 4, and then for a brief time I was working on Hardcore Uprising, and I tried to come up with some new weapons. And it's really like the Contra classic weapons really cover all the bases. It's hard to come up with new weapons when you have this set. So then for Spidersaurs, each character had their own unique weapons. So some of them were kind of based on Contra standards, and then I had to come up with new weapons. And okay, well, I came up with a whole new set of weapons. And now on Contra Operation Galuga, it's like, now we need even more weapons. So it's been a lot of fun and a fun design puzzle. But I think we did a good job. And then I think the weapons the classic ones, in addition to the new ones, I think we've balanced them all really well. We've done a lot of different tests with Wayforward people, with Konami people, with the QA staff, just like, let's hammer this out. This has to be like the best set of weapons with the nothing can jump out as like, just use the spread shot, never use anything else. That can't happen. And I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, I got stuck with this weapon. I hate this weapon. It's useless. Nothing's useless. You can take that to the bank. Nothing's useless. But yeah, I'm excited to see what people gravitate towards. I traditionally don't like the laser in Contra, but in Operation Galuga, laser is my favorite weapon. So I'm hoping a lot of people have experiences like that. Like, oh, I always kind of wrote this off, but the way this is tweaked, I kind of like it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was never a fan of the lasers in the original. It's either missiles or spread shot. And pretty much when I was playing with my brothers, we always went for the spread shot. And it's like, that was useful for the entire game. So I like that you've basically balanced out all the different weapons. So, because yeah, and for anyone who's not familiar with Contra, typically one of the things you run into when you're playing a Contra title is running into one weapon just being utterly useless and one being so overpowered. Between that and super bombs is all you really need. So
Right.
I'm very happy to hear that that's being balanced out.
I made a giant spreadsheet with any data I could glean from the old Contra games, and then the Contra 4 data and Spidersaurs data, and then our current games data, and I could compare like the damage values for everything and the fire rates.
Mhm.
And there were surprises in Contra 4. I'm like, I don't know how we let that slip through. Like this weapon is totally broken. But so yeah, it was but again, it was a priority for me to just make sure like everything's useful, everything's fun.
Would you say, since you brought up Hardcore Uprising, which is a phenomenal game, if y'all haven't played it, please go out and, well, I think Xbox is the only way to play it right now.
I think so.
Backwards compatible. That needs to be on more platforms. That's just me saying that. I think it needs to be on more platforms. But
I agree.
that, like, was there anything from that you were able to pull over to this one? Or anything that stuck out to you that you're like, oh, that's really freaking cool. I want to use that.
Yes and no. Like I said, I briefly worked on it when it started. Then it shifted over to some different producers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I helped with the Loke at the end. But mainly, I just appreciated it as a player, and I could play it before everybody else because I worked there. But when I approached Spidersaurs, I really tried to look at it like Hardcore Uprising had more abilities, and you kind of gained them as you went in the one mode. You could like purchase them, right? So Spidersaurs, you were kind of unlocking them. But I kind of pictured that as sort of my take on Hardcore Uprising, and we had the hand drawn art, so it felt kind of akin to that. So then coming back to Contra, um, we didn't set out to use anything from it, but I think sort of the Spidersaurs influence a little bit, and then just some when we came to key decisions and we made decision X instead of decision Y. Looking back in the final game, I think there's some Hardcore Uprising in it. like I saw I went on a forum that I used to be part of it, so that's where I go to look at my game news when I'm release a trailer or something. And so we announced the game, and I wanted to see what they thought. And a lot of them were like, "Well, here's what I liked in Hardcore Uprising that wasn't in Contra 4, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Well, look, some of that we have some of that." So it was exciting. They were saying it like a negative, but I was like, "Well, hold on, we have some of that stuff. So you guys are gonna like this game." So yeah, it's just funny how that sneaks in, totally subconsciously or unintentionally, and then you look at the final product and you're like, "There's some hardcore uprising."
Now, would you say, as far as like the difficulty of Operation Galuga, would you say it's on par with the original, closer to Contra 4, or is it like balls hard as Shattered Soldier?
Okay, so I'll have two separate statements. First, I'm going to speak to the inexperienced gamer. Maybe they haven't been able to play running guns; they're too hard, or they've always been intimidated by Contra's reputation. Maybe they've never tried one. Operation Galuga is the most accessible Contra game to all skill levels. So if you haven't been able to beat a running gun or you've been worried, like try it out, play it on easy. Like there's no pressure, man. You can see the whole game on easy. And there's some features in there you can take advantage of. And if you put in the effort, you should be able to see the ending. And it won't be a situation where we removed all the fangs and the bosses just sit there and let you shoot them, and then you beat it and you go online and everyone makes fun of you because you didn't really beat it. It's not that situation. You beat it on easy, you will feel like you've accomplished something. You beat a Contra game, and you want to go beat more. That's all to you guys. Now, to all you returning Contra veterans who, whatever, man, you need a challenge. This better be hard. You've waited a decade to play a new Contra game. this is the hardest Contra game you'll ever play.
Okay.
So we've got some we got some extra bonus modes. We got hard mode. We got settings you can set. This game will challenge you, and you'll have something to brag about if you beat it with the harder settings. So
Okay.
there we go. And then if you're in the middle, just play the game.
Are we gonna see the return of the Konami Code?
I think anyone should try to put it in. So if you don't know what it is, look it up before the game comes out.
All right. And as far as I know you said there's about 8 stages. Are we seeing some brand new stage concepts or some remixes from other Contra titles possibly in it? And maybe we might see some additional unlockable stages, maybe on higher difficulties. I don't know.
So you can see every stage and every difficulty. That's important because we didn't do it on Contra 4, and that was my call, and a bunch of people are mad at me about it. So you can play all the stages. There are new concepts. So every Contra traditionally has like an alternate gameplay stage or mechanic or whatever. So like the first Contra had the corridors that were 3D, which was really super impressive in the 8-bit, and then other Contras have auto-scrolling, others have top-down. So in the trailers, you can see we do have auto-scrolling stages on the hover bike. So that's our alternate play style. So just there, it's going to have to be a new stage concept from the 2D, 3D, or the 3D corridor stages from the original Contra, right? So something's different there. But we definitely have new stages that weren't at all referenced in the original. And as far as calling back to titles outside of the original Contra, I really wanted our gameplay experience to encapsulate the series. So, the main series, not like Contra Force. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Contra Force fans.
I was going to bring that up. Because I was curious about your thoughts on Contra Force, because you got a lot of people that are super hardcore about that one.
It's got good music.
Yeah. That if someone wants to make some fan patches to fix the performance of it, I'd be all for it. But back in the day, I was not a fan of playing that one.
But yeah, so I want to encapsulate like the canon Contra game. So it doesn't mean like pulling in this exact boss from an old game and like suddenly you're on the highway from hardcore. Like but just like the type of things you encounter, you can pick up, this is that boss mechanic from this other game, or like, this is kind of like this guy, or I feel the way I did fighting this other boss. So I tried to pull in a lot of that. So even in the context of they're on Galuga Island, here's a couple new areas you haven't seen, but like you're also not going to be confined to like how many games am I going to have to wait until I play something like my favorite moment? Like your favorite moment should be in here. I hope. And so if you're a fan, you should be like this game has what I wanted. It's what I was waiting for, and I want to replay it a bunch. So that's my goal, but that's what we were striving for. So there's a lot in there, even though setting wise, it's the first game.
Okay. So I gotta ask this question: top 3 Contra games for you?
Top 3? No one has top 3.
Contra Force has got to be up there, right?
So the original Contra on NES is my favorite. Second is probably Contra 4.
Okay.
And then third is Alien Wars, Contra 3. I think.
Not hardcore?
I grew up with I had a Genesis, but I didn't have hardcore. I didn't play hardcore until I was working on Contra 4. So it might be biased. Hardcore is certainly longer. And I don't like the top-down stages in Contra 3. So maybe it's hardcore. Maybe if I play it more, that'll be the top 3. But yeah, they're all great, man. Super C is underrated. Not enough people talk about Super C. and Shattered Soldier's fun. The mechanics are different.
Yeah.
But it's definitely challenging. It's got the hardcore difficulty, and the Neo Contra, again, totally different gameplay, a little easier, but that's a blast too. So, and there's a dog in an army hat in Neo Contra. So
I felt like the recent, well, that's not really recent at this point, but like Contra Rogue Core, I thought that was trying to pull a lot of the playstyle from Neo Contra in a way, but I'm one of the few people that thought, oh, okay, this is fun. It's not my favorite Contra, but I thought Rogue Core was fun. I know a lot of people kind of reamed that one. But it was, hey, I always say this. Anytime you see a company throw out a compilation and then a quasi new title, that means there's potential interest to make more. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing this with the new Contra. My hopes are, if I were to throw another IP from Konami that I would personally love you to work on, it would be Sparkster. Bring Sparkster back. Sparkster's been sitting dormant too long.
Yep. Yeah, I produced the 2010 Rocket Knight, actually.
That was so good.
So I've had where I'd go with it next locked in my head for a long time. So yeah, if anyone wants to tell Konami they'd like to play a new Sparkster game, feel free. Don't hold back.
Definitely need to make that happen. Oh man, that's just one of my favorite franchises. What's so crazy is I didn't realize how much the carts for the two in the Genesis and Super Nintendo were. I had them, and I talked to my mom because she's got like all that stuff in storage. She's like, "Oh yeah, I just gave it away at a garage sale." I was like, "You know how much those are worth?" No, yeah, I'm sure. Complete in box, bro.
I have a sealed Super Nintendo Sparkster. So I guess that's the retirement.
So outside of that, what do you want to leave the fans with, the Contra fans and the new fans with the anticipation of the upcoming Operation Galuga?
The core message for fans is that, I think having Wayforward work on this, you guys know we've done Contra 4. If you checked out Spidersaurs, I'd worked on that. We definitely understand the Contra fans have wanted like a core Contra game for a long time. And when a series has gone this long without a new entry, I think it's really important to scratch that itch of the original game. Don't, do new stuff. Like, no one wants to rehash, right? But like, it has to hit those notes. Don't get creative and be like, well, what if we didn't have jumping? Like, no. You got to hit the Contra notes. So that's been primary on our mind, and we really have aimed for this to be the game that you've waited so long for. And we want you to be super happy with it and just so overjoyed with like all the cool features and the challenge. And then again, if you're not a Contra fan, but you've ever been intrigued by a run and gun, like this is your entry point. This is the start of the story again. We have a nice easy mode to onboard you, and like welcome to the club, man. I want those players to get excited and understand why people play run and guns. It's not the most prolific genre anymore. I think we talked about that last time.
Yeah, we did.
But like, yeah, there's some great stuff. Like, there's some great stuff in this genre. So come on board with Contra, and then hopefully you get into it.
Awesome. With that being said, anything else you want to leave the audience with before we go?
No, I hope everybody's looking forward to it. Again, it's on every platform, so there's no excuses. But please check it out.
Awesome. With that being said, thank you, Tom, for coming on the show again. It's always a pleasure having you on the show and getting to talk about stuff from, basically stuff from our youth. And then We're not old people. We're vintage. There's a difference.
We're vintage. Yeah.
I
like it.
But like last time we had you on for Spidersaurs, and now we got you on for Contra, and hey, it's the next thing we're gonna have you on for. We know.
Let's keep our fingers crossed for Sparkster.
Please, Konami, I need a new Sparkster. It's been too long. It doesn't feel like it's been, 13, 14 years?
13, well, yeah, 14 now. Yep.
It's so crazy because I was actually talking to my wife the other day. I was like, looking back at 2010, 2009, 2007, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
Right.
But it's like, it's so crazy. Right? Oh my goodness. So with that being said, thank you, Tom, for coming on the show. I'm going to leave links to everything for you guys to follow him, follow Konami, follow Wayforward, follow the game, pre-order it. Definitely do that. Wish list it on all the available platforms it's going to be on, and expect a review from me close to launch. So yeah. With that being said, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Stay safe, be blessed, have aloha, and we'll see you on the next one. For your time for listening to this episode of the Kasanova Podcast, number one podcast in Hawaii. If you found this episode to be incredibly enjoyable, informative, or if there's anything you gain from it, or any insight, or anything that's good that you really, really enjoyed, make sure whatever platform you're listening to it on, or if you're watching it, leave a comment if that's available on the platform, like it, share it around with someone you think would enjoy it, and give us some feedback, because your feedback is exactly what we need to keep this show going. And if you're wondering what are some ways that you could support the show, we got various ways. We've got Patreon, we have channel memberships over on YouTube, as well as Subscribestar, Coffee, and so much more. Links for everything will be in the description of the podcast, so make sure you go check that out. And with all that being said, I hope you have an aloha rest of your day.
Let them know that I'm next level. I'm a whole new kind of guy. Yeah. Yes, at the top spot, in case you forgot. We the ones that got the block hot, bullet got the shot.